Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hunter Talks coverage of the NBA Finals Game 5. We've got the Raptors taking on the Warriors, and we are in for a barn burner, everybody, because Kevin Durant is back in the game. Will he be 100% with his weird calf Achilles injury? No one knows, but they better get him or else they're going to lose in just 5 games. Was last game the last game they ever played at Oracle Arena? Find out with us as we watch the NBA Finals together.
Cole, this game is going to be just fantastic. I've been looking forward to this game all week long. I can't tell you how excited I am. Boy, howdy.
Or welcome we could talk about 100 Thieves.
It's time for another rebrand, my friend.
No. Hey, let's be true. We're not throwing in any sort of towels.
Are you kidding me?
We're not throwing in towels. This isn't.
We're just getting started. We're just getting started. This is only the beginning.
That's right. Let's get new energy up in this.
Forged from fire.
Welcome,
Forged
everybody.
In fire.
100 Talk, Forged in Fire fandom.
Forged from fire.
Jordan and I are a couple of League of Legends fans, a couple of 100 Thieves mega fans, and not League of Legends analysts, not League of Legends diamond players.
Are we assuming that we're going to have an influx of new listeners
yes,
this week?
Everybody to laugh at us. But look. Don't interrupt the intro. Don't interrupt the intro. You know this. I'll fire
you. Get the intern in here to take my place.
What we are right now as big 100 Thieves fans are experiencing something that we're calling the split of sorrow. Jordan, what emotions are the split of sorrow bringing on to you?
First, something I like to call big sad.
The big sad. Can you explain the big sad?
Yeah, it's when you use analytics to That's Moneyball. Big sad. Big sad is where you hope beyond hope. You reach a place far beyond hope early in the split, and just as soon as you get there, you realize, boy, we're in for another one of those.
Yeah,
it's gonna be just a play it back, Sam.
I mean, I think it's. You can go one of two paths with the big sad. One is your entire existence is in question because everything you know is fallen away. And then the other is the path that you're apparently taking of delirious delusion, all the other kind of DEL words that you can think of.
Delinquency. I'm gonna get naughty.
Deliciousness. Delegation.
Yep.
Of your fandom responsibilities. Look, it's the big sad. It just means we're really, really sad because this weekend wasn't so great. Last weekend wasn't so great. Matter of fact, 15 of the last 16 games not been so great. I made you choke on your water as I said that. So I'm telling you that hits you with a visceral emotional reaction.
Yeah, when you think about it like that, that's a lot of weekends that have not been so great. Yeah. Kind of in a row, right in a row. Except for that weekend we were in LA. That was a great
weekend. A wonderful weekend.
It was the best weekend. It was we got to go back there.
It feels like
in a time machine.
Ago.
Can we get back into the time machine? Warp us back to that point in time.
Well, there's good news and bad news, okay? The good news is
the bad news first.
No, I'll go good news first. Okay. The good news is I am going to put you in a time machine. The bad news is I'm going to transport you to Saturday when we played Team Liquid.
I don't want to go back there.
I'm sorry. We have a podcast that leaves you no choice.
Oh, the burden I bear is downright dastardly, Cole.
Well, Frodo, we are here to complete your mission. You must see it through. Look, all right. We're not going to dwell too much on the actual games for this show. We're going to talk about the meta issues that manifest themselves in various ways throughout these games. But we do have a duty to at least talk about a couple of things with Team Liquid. Jordan, would you like to lead off and tell me one of your key observations about 100 Thieves that you made while watching us take on Team Liquid?
Yeah, okay.
He doesn't want to do it.
I wrote down some things as I watched this game. In the really bad week, sometimes I don't even do that, where I just don't. I like to take notes as I go, but some games it's like not a lot to say on this one. but there's some things we should talk about here, and I want to ask your opinion on some of the things I've observed, so you can tell me if I've lost my mind.
I will be the wall that volleys the tennis ball right back to you because you're all alone playing by yourself.
Okay, that's what we call this game, playing on your own. So here's what I noticed. Someone is making better calls for us in game. Someone is doing it. Someone on this team, this iteration as it currently stands, is doing a better job calling the shots. I ask you, sir, is there anyone it could be besides our friend Amazing?
I have a guess on where you're going with this, but I will say if you're saying besides Amazing, then I have to say no. I don't believe that the shot calling is showing up. So you can feel free to make your argument for him.
Okay. I think, where do I even start to unwind this thread? Okay. These games, we lost both of them. They weren't good.
Yes.
They were not close.
We'll agree on that.
Yes. However, one thing I thought was very interesting, and I don't want us to overlook. At the end of this game, do you remember what happened?
At the end of the Team Liquid game?
Yeah.
My last note on the game is
the Nexus has exploded.
Aframos sucking really bad. That was my last note.
That's a rough note, dude.
I remember a flank from our friend Ssumday.
I'm not actually talking about in the game. I'm talking about at the end of the VOD, and I'll just get to it. The analysts, or the casters, rather, I believe, maybe Zale and Flowers, they were talking about how this is actually kind of an encouraging game.
False praise, right?
These two guys are not guys who are want to make false praise. So I thought that was very interesting. And then, scene change, the analyst desk, Act 2. More of the same. They're also talking about how this game, not too bad. I think the scoreline was 14-2 kills. And they're talking about how, you know what? Maybe that wasn't so bad. Maybe it wasn't so bad after all. So I was kind of thinking about that. Like, why is that what they're saying at the end of this game that is so unexpected? And that's, I'm going right back to where I started, which is somebody's making better calls for us. And in the past, when it was a 14-2 scoreline, this is not a stranger scoreline to us. It would have ended with us dancing around as the Baron empowered minions crashed into our inhib turret and through our inhib, then into our Nexus turrets, and then finally the Nexus. And we probably wouldn't even have taken a fight.
Sure.
Something's different. We actually fought in our jungle when we were down. I think it was 8 to, I don't know what it was, 8-1 kills or something like that. But we actually put up a fight, and I think that's what people are noticing, and I think that's amazing.
Well,
I think that's capital A.
Yeah. What did you say? Capital A or not capital A?
Capital A, amazing, and lowercase a, good. Amazing, also.
Well, we did see, like I said, a Ssumday flank while they were in our base, killing our minions, killing our turrets, which is not something that we're used to seeing. But I honestly think this. Look, and let me preface this by saying I actually love Zale. Okay, he is someone I enjoy very much. Yes. Now, that being said, Azale has two things that I've noticed that happen with him. One is he is very quick to lavish any sort of praise on Meteos for anything ever that he ever does right. Okay, but that's neither here nor there.
That's a separate note.
The other thing is that he keyed in very heavily on a game that he casted last split when our Nexus was getting blowed up and we did not do anything. We didn't really make a play to try and team fight, a last-ditch effort. We didn't do it, okay?
We just danced around.
We were like the monk on fire. We were just peacefully sitting, all right? So
self-immolation, yep.
So he has like really keyed in on that. And I've heard him say it on so many broadcasts. I've heard him say it on the dive. Yeah. He just, that moment really stuck in his brain. And because of that, I think it's overwrought a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like, He's drawing attention. Oh, look, they're fighting. And it is true to some extent, right? Yeah. But I think the whole, like, they used to just give up and roll over, I think that whole concept is a little bit overstated by him. Okay, so I think that's the reason you're seeing so much praise for him. Even though, like, yes, it's a positive that we did try and do something in both games this weekend.
Yeah.
But it's still, man, we got some major issues, and I wouldn't be too quick to ring the good job bell, on my way out of the restaurant or whatever.
Yeah. It feels like the world's greatest consolation prize, I think is kind of what I'm feeling a little bit like, right?
It's the participation trophy.
You're losing better. That's great. Now, there's something else about this. So let's go to this point now. Lately, we've been hearing analysts talk about when you're playing like we are, you've got to forget about the past, forget about your days of glory, your world's participation gone by, and really just try to get to the eighth best, to be the eighth best team in the league.
The marginal improvement every day. Right?
Marginal improvement. So kind of step by step. Like, I think that we can all accept that we will not be, well, I think probably mathematically we won't be like the first, second, or third place team at this point. Maybe not mathematically yet, but nobody expects us to be there.
Sure.
We could still hope for playoffs and still play for that. We should. But I think there is something to say about, like, maybe incremental improvement is something that's worth striving for at this point. And if incremental improvement looks like we're trying things and we're making plays instead of just slowly losing, maybe that is something to heap praise on.
I don't know about if it's something to heap praise on, but it's something that the team should build on. Okay. You don't want to pat yourself on the back too hard when you didn't really do much, but you do want to take a single positive and say, look, we did this. It was a positive. That's another step we can take. Okay. So you have to be measured with it. You have to be honest with yourself and measured. And that's what I worry about, is that the honesty maybe not there, because now people are looking for things to say about the team. Like if you're talking about analysts, it's because we're now clearly the worst team in the league. Whereas before it was, I wonder what's wrong, because they should be one of the best teams in the league. Now we're firmly established as one of the worst. So it's, well, what did they do right? It's just a perspective switch. But we're seeing some problems that are still pressing us. And one of the ones I wanted to bring up was CS. Man, we are still just not farming in lane up to par. We are net negative in pretty much every lane at this point.
I think the only exception to that is our boy Soligo,
who held even in this game. Yeah. And good for him. In a game
that ended 14-2.
Yes. And good for him. We'll talk more about that specific data point later in this. And it sounds like you and I are going to be in a heated debate about it, because
I cannot wait.
But the fact is, like, bot lane is never up in CS. And top lane is no longer ever up in CS. Okay. Another thing we're going to talk about more is Ssumday, man. He is not getting those early leads that he used to get. So we are having some very fundamental problems that you should not be having. The problems should be coming from elsewhere. And I'm not saying we should expect to go even or positive every single time, but I would expect to go positive some of the time. Yeah. And that's really, really not happening.
Well, and I think that's a very reasonable expectation, because the way this game works is you invest your resources somewhere. Like, unless you are not doing that, unless you're not sending your junglers somewhere, unless you're not having your mid lane roam top or bottom, you're investing your resources in a way that should give you some kind of an advantage.
Yeah. And
that is what's concerning to me right now, is those resources are being invested. And it's not that we're just, like, well, our lead's not big enough. But think back to before week 1, we were talking about, can we get Ssumday to the point where his lead is big enough that it can compensate for a bend not break approach for Soligo?
Sure.
That's not even happening now.
No.
We're not getting a lead anywhere.
It's not close to happening.
And the best we can say is that Soligo is, in my opinion, he's not even, he's playing the bend not break strategy brilliantly. And I would say he's really not even bending that much. And we can argue that. But I take your point fully on that. And I think that's super concerning, because the things that we were going into this split saying, well, that's going to be our competitive advantage, are gone.
Yeah. Like, we don't even have what we thought we had left from last split. You know what I mean? Like, those things have disappeared. Meanwhile, we're seeing some of the other things. I'll say overall, I feel like Aphromoo, I mentioned my last note was Aphromoo sucking really bad in this. I will say overall, I feel like he is actually playing better on the whole than he did last split. And I think the way I think about it is, whereas last split he was pretty consistently bad, this split he's closer to I'm a hit and miss guy. You know, the Team Liquid game though, he was on that miss train because
Yes, he was. So the Nautilus was dying a lot.
he was kind of feeding, right? Like he died
At one
4
point, I think it
times.
was 0-4 and
Yeah, he died 4 times like pretty quick.
Early.
I know he died 3 times in 14 minutes. Okay? That's like me in solo queue. And it can't really happen.
No, it can't.
And
you know who doesn't do that?
you in solo queue?
Almost every other support player in the LCS, right? Like I haven't looked at the stats, but I would argue there's probably, I'm sure at this point he's got the highest number of deaths in the first 15.
Yeah.
Which hurts your laning phase real bad.
Yeah.
Real bad.
For many reasons, right?
Yeah.
So that is something to keep an eye on. Like I said, I think overall he's playing a little bit better than he was last split. But man, we got to make sure that we have him closer to that holding and being a neutral player than being a disadvantage for the team.
Yeah, and if there's any positive to take from, I think there are positives to take from this weekend, and I've already listed one of them. I think another one is, I think he actually played his role. I won't say perfectly, but I think he did a really much better job as Tarek. I think at one point he was 0-0 and 8, if I'm not wrong. He ended the game 0-1 and 8,
yeah.
So I'm sure he was 0-0 and 8 at some point.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't get that last assist after he died. So that's great, and our entire ability to stay in that game was based on him dropping the ults where they needed to be, kind of creating these engages that the other team couldn't answer. So yeah, it bought us time that felt pretty cheap in the end when we lost, but that was his job. He did his job, and he did not feed at all.
Okay, well look, you are jumping ahead to Clutch Gaming.
I am. I'm sorry.
Because you just want to get through these games and forget about them. So let's just continue on with that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Red Rivalry game.
We can't jump. There's stuff and I know I'm the one who did this, but if I can we please?
Okay,
just
all right.
it?
I will permit it. I'll allow it.
Okay, my good friend, you were doing some tweeting after the TL game,
mm-hmm.
and one of the things you talked about is our boy Soligo.
Yes.
And how he ended the game 0-0-0, which,
mm-hmm.
in my opinion, it's the best stat line you can hope for in a game that you lose 14-2 in kills. 0-0-0 is pretty good. In that we were just dying everywhere on the map, top lane, bot lane. So Soligo didn't die, which is fantastic. Not only that, the Ssumday engage we talked about and called out. Here's something that I didn't hear anybody talk about, and I think it's a travesty. It's a shame. I'm offended. And here's why. You watch that fight. Go back and watch the engage. Got engaged from Ssumday. He walks up behind him.
You're talking about the 5-man Pop Blossom?
No, this is still TL, so he's on the Jarvan. But he walks up behind him. He flag and drags through their entire back line.
Mm-hmm.
Boop, pops them all up. And then what happens is they're kind of scattered a little bit. They've got their tank front line, their meat wall, walking forward, and the carries are a little bit distracted. Ssumday then drops a cataclysm on Amazing. Things kind of start to go sideways from there.
Yeah, when Amazing gets caught up in it.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, so he had to get out. What happens next is so important, and I didn't hear anybody mention it. And I didn't look that hard, so it's possible that it happened. Credit where credit's due. But like nobody on the cast didn't talk about it. The State Farm analyst desk didn't talk about it. Guess what happens next?
What?
Soligo walks up and drops a 4-man shockwave. He gets everybody, both squishies, the support, and your Trundle. He gets them all, and he chunks them down so low that 3 of them just leave. They just go somewhere else, and so we're left with 5 on 2. And you know what happens? Bang just leaves. He just walks away. He just goes. The shockwave happens. Go back and review the tape. The shockwave happens. Bang kind of walks up a little bit, and then he turns around and he walks out of the jungle. he didn't pop his ultimate to escape faster, but he did leave.
And at least he saved that ultimate.
If he would have, maybe already used it. If he would have, he put a Q out there or bounced some boomerangs around, there's a very real possibility we get 2 or 3 kills.
Yeah.
So Soligo is our MVP.
Soligo's
in that
game MVP.
At least in that game. And I think there's a very strong argument to make for game 2 as well. We're not there yet, but I think it's there. It's there to be made.
And
maybe I'll make
rest assured, we'll talk about Soligo some more because there are some
fired up about
counters to your
Soligo.
argument. But that was nice. That was nice. That was a nice little storytelling time.
Thank you. 4-man shockwave.
I appreciate it. It affected me. All right.
That's what I'm here for.
Okay.
To convince everybody that Soligo should be our starting mid laner. Blow the rest of the team up. Soligo's in.
Yeah. All right.
He's in.
Well, let's talk about Clutch before I let you see if you can bear out that crazy hot take that you just dropped on us.
That is not. Listen,
you just said blow up everybody and Soligo can stay. Okay.
Tepid take.
All right.
Chat, check me on that. Tepid, lukewarm.
Let's talk Clutch. Let's rein this in. Okay, look. Here's a question for you. Since you like to talk, I'm going to let you keep talking about this.
Okay.
What in the world happened during the early game against Clutch? Do we have answers for this?
I like to talk about Soligo. I've got nothing to say on that. Sonateric, man. So I think Sonateric was 6-1 in the LCS going into this game, 6-2 afterwards. Both of the Sonateric is no longer the invincible duo. Like, that notion is gone, and I think
They're
saw
still
it first.
what was it, 9-3 in the major regions? It's still pretty good.
But I think people are starting to learn a little bit better how to play against it. Like, there is a way to play against it. I think it was compounded by the fact that we didn't play it particularly well. Like, we just didn't really, like, when we got dived, we didn't chain our abilities well.
Sure.
That kind of stuff. So it just wasn't that well of an execution of it. But yeah, we got hurt there. The Nico, on hit Nico that just completely got bullied and had no ability to do the
Not
only
what
thing
you were
on hit
expecting
Nico
from
to do.
Ssumday, huh?
No, I'll let you talk about it, man, because I already said my Soligo piece. I've exhausted myself, but there's a lot there that did not go as we needed it to.
Yeah, Ssumday was disappointing in this game, and I think we're going to expand on that conversation again after we get through these games because I think we're seeing a trend with that, honestly, which I never really thought I would say. Now, in the past, I feel like Ssumday has had this extra level of energy when he goes up against Huni for whatever reason, and it just wasn't there today. Like, he got solo killed by Huni in this game.
Yeah.
And that's
Just
not something you want to see.
And it wasn't close. It wasn't like, oh, well, that last auto just, eked it out.
Right. And
He walked out with full health.
here's another thing. Like, Amazing tried like a really nice gank up top, right? It actually, because of the timing, I think it ended up being a 2v2.
Yes,
Okay.
it was. Yeah, you had the Skarner in the bush.
Yeah,
Yep.
it should have killed Huni, right? I don't know really what happened, but he missed that play, and Ssumday did as well. Like, I don't think any one person is at fault in there. I think like some wires disconnected during that play, and they did not get the kill on Huni, which they absolutely should have. And then Ssumday went down, so you got nothing in return for that, right? And then on the other side of the map, what do you have? You have punish. Every time we slipped up, there was a punish there. Yep. Which, I would have expected maybe during the Team Liquid game, but we got that during the Clutch game, right?
Yeah.
Like an uncontested Infernal Drake happens after that, right? Like,
right.
They just were moving around the map and making plays, playing like a Clutch game we're not used to seeing, honestly, at least in the early game. And we were behind in CS and all lanes, only like 5, 6, 7 minutes into the game. Okay. So we have like a laning problem for people who like the talent ceiling for us. It is insane to say we have a laning problem.
Right. That's the time where you're supposed to be able to exert your will on people. You are supposed to be able to outplay. And I get it. Yes, that's, it's not all just about mechanical advantage and outplay. There's a lot of other stuff going on. And some people have never really been lane dominant. We'll give them that. But man, like, this is not at all what we had in mind when we talked about remember when we talked about Bang like being the perfect player and kind of being the player that others can follow?
Yeah. No.
That seems like a distant memory.
I remember that, and I wish I did not. I wish I could erase it, because that is not what we're seeing at all. Nope. I was hopeful before the split started that he would be this, look, I'm going to take charge and I'm going to show you how to play, and then you come follow me. That is the exact opposite of what's happening. We're seeing him just basically abdicate every single time. He's just retreating. And man, you need, like, as a scared to death ADC, I can tell you, like, you gotta stay in there and fight even when you want to run, you know, or else you end up like me, stuck in low elo with terrible damage graph every single time, needing to be carried by everybody else.
Not playing in the LCS, Cole. You slipping, dude. We got to get you back up there.
I mean, I'm struggling like in bronze, silver. So
yeah, I know we're a ways from that.
So it was bad, man. The early game just went so bad.
Yeah, the early game was a huge problem, and
the flip side of the coin, right, is the late game. Which is the most perplexing thing to me, right?
Yeah.
So obviously we defended for much longer than we should have and much longer than we were expected to. So we have to ask ourselves this question because of this specifically. A lot of people were like, well, at least we changed, right? At least we're seeing some kind of different attitude from the team. And we have to figure out, is there something to that? Was it a clutch throw? What's playing out there? What's your opinion on this? Does the late game defense mean anything for the team?
I don't think it means a lot. I mean, okay, let's talk about what it means. It means we didn't give up. It means that, right? We didn't give up, which is good. It means we are able to figure out how to play with a composition even when it's not working as it's intended to early. Yeah. And I think that's ultimately what we had here is, and this, I didn't watch the game, but I heard the casters talking about it, or the analyst desk. This is the exact same team comp that Cloud9 ran the day before. So potentially a little less credit there on, like, we figured out how Cloud9 ran it, what the combo was. But it was, I mean, I think defensively it's a great comp because you'll notice Soligo ended with the highest CS in the game. Just saying. But it's because he had.
Was that game or just team?
It was game.
Oh wow. Yeah. Okay. Did not know that, but we'll revisit.
He was free, and look, don't overcredit him here. He was free farming super waves in base for 20 minutes with sand soldiers who cannot take damage. So he could just stand back and let those guys do work. So, he's dangerous. He played well. Like he had some really clutch stream of shuffles. Like he played his kid as he needed to, and he was good. So we were able to buy enough time. Our wave clear was strong enough. The team comp was just set up to put up a good defense like that. And I think truly what it came down to is Clutch couldn't figure out how to break that puzzle of these guys. They can counter engage us before we can really do what we want to do. Yeah. Right? They invincible, they cataclysm, they pop one of us, and then things are kind of out of our control. Yeah,
and it was a killer combo, to be honest. We were executing the Tarek Jarvan thing really, really well.
It was fantastic. The moment the game ended is when they realized, well, let's just send Rakan in and charm him, and then that was it. And you'll notice, as soon as the Rakan got off a good engage, the game ended. Yeah. So they got one pick or maybe two.
I think so. Yeah, I was gonna say. I think actually was it Soligo who got caught out at the end and cost the game? Oh no, that doesn't bode well for you.
He cost us the game.
Look, no, okay, yes, that's an exaggeration, but I mean, like it's Sven, right? You make the one bad play at the end of the game and the game's over, right? Now, I'm not saying that's all your fault. I'm just saying.
Yeah, when you're hanging on by your fingertips, the side of the mountain,
right,
for 20 minutes.
I feel like I'm memeing too hard on Soligo because I like what I'm seeing so far.
Don't meme what memes aren't due.
In a measured way, I like what I'm seeing. Right. Obviously, I would prefer to have someone like Bjergsen or whatever, but I'm just saying. I think Soligo is starting to build, which is good. Anyway, well, you had a note about the side lanes. Okay, did you want to talk about that? You had a question there about investing in our side lanes.
Yeah. Hey, everybody used to talk about, what if we ganked bot? What would happen then?
Right.
We saw, I mean, the amazing Ssumday thing we talked about looked a little bit like the Anda Ssumday connection that we saw last split. So that's kind of concerning as well. And we kind of started off talking about this a little bit, but this is what our win condition was coming into the split, and it's not working. And even even Soligo is sacrificing his own resources. He TP'd up to that top lane
He
after
did.
that botched, and look, I don't think I'm high enough elo to break down exactly what happened and put blame on somebody
Yeah,
with
sure.
that Skarner Bush gank or counter gank, I guess you call it. But I think Ssumday's positioning is really bad on that, for him to know which bush the Skarner is in. I mean, the Skarner he hits like a full combo on him to start the fight. And we have 2 guys in lane and they've got 1. So you could argue either way. It was either an amazing misplay or a Ssumday misplay, but I think either way, Ssumday doesn't come out of that looking good. Where I think with some of the Anda ones, it truly was Anda ooh, that was very questionable.
Yeah, that's fair. And I'm glad you brought up the TP from Soligo because, I have to say, I honestly think he was probably the most proactive player during this game, right? He was trying to be aggressive in some ways, whereas everybody else didn't really seem to. I mean, Amazing a little bit. And then at the end, there were a couple of good engages.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, we would be remiss if we didn't mention Soligo's 5-man Pop Blossom, which is pretty beautiful. That we have had a couple of glimpses of Ssumday being Ssumday. That was one of them. Yeah. The other was, like I said, when he tried to make that TP flank in the first game, but no one was close enough to really follow up on it, unfortunately. But those flashes haven't outweighed the rest of his game, which has basically been way more passive than before. Right. And it just looks like he's passing on everything. And there's a stat that shows this quite clearly. So now it's time for Cole's Stat of the Week. Are you ready for Cole's Stat of the Week? Stat of the Week.
Stat of the Week.
100 Thieves took 0 turrets this weekend. All weekend. Not a single turret.
Oh, no, dude.
That's not how we want to play the game.
That is worse than I realized. I knew we took 0 in the clutch game.
Turret count 0 for this weekend.
Youch.
So what are we going to change, honestly? What are we going to change? Because if we're talking about, okay, well, maybe Amazing is going to be able to be the shot-calling voice and bring an attitude to the game that will make everybody play harder, whatever. Okay, but what about the early stuff where we just, tend to lose lanes? He can only gank so many lanes, right?
Yeah.
What are we going to do about this?
Yeah. Well, and by the way, if he ganks a lane and we don't get anything out of it, the other team, Clutch Gaming, in this case, gets 6 dragons, right?
Yeah, right. When's the last time you saw a team took 6 elemental dragons?
I'm pretty sure they had double Infernal, double Ocean, double Mountain by the end of this thing.
I think it was actually mountain, 2 mountains, 1 ocean, and 3 Infernals. They got triple Infernal. Yeah.
You're right.
Jeez.
Oh. So, yeah. So what do we need to change? Is that your question?
Yeah. What are we going to do about this?
Are you ready for the hotness? Are we?
I thought we already did the hotness, but okay.
No, my friend. This was all the measured stuff.
All right. Bring it on.
Are we done? Are we moving on from the game?
Sure.
Breakdown
Let's
portion
do it.
Of this experience. So before we started this split, there's a lot of talk about rosters. You and I talked about it a lot. We had pods about it. Kind of get into it a little bit. You talked about building around Ssumday.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the one that we need to build around. He is that good. He has that much carry potential.
Yes.
Let's revisit that. Where are you at on that? I'm curious.
He is not playing at all like he played last split. Okay, so if you go back 2-3 splits ago, it was pretty clear that he's one of the best players in the entire region, right?
Yep.
Now, that has just fallen off a cliff. He is not playing with those early leads. Like we said, he would build those almost like clockwork. Last split, even when we were terrible, okay? He'd be up 3,000 gold on whatever poor hapless man was across the rift from him. He's not getting there. Last split, the problem was we can't convert those leads. So my thought was, let's take what he's able to do early and get someone who can snowball it. Okay? Mm-hmm. Well, now we've lost that early advantage, so we cannot snowball something that doesn't exist.
Do you think that's him?
I think a good amount of it is.
Yeah.
I can't look at Ssumday, and I can't look at Bang for that matter, and say these guys are not at fault here. They clearly look like they're playing below what they're capable of.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely, they are
so
playing. Yeah.
yeah, like if you think of a two-time world champion, or you think of Ssumday, you don't think about the kind of performance that you're seeing there,
Yeah.
right? And Ssumday's on a solo lane, man. He should be able to take some people down.
That's been his MO the entire time he's been in the LCS.
Yeah.
He is always going to be that lane for us. And what we find ourselves with now is he's not. He's not that lane. And that's not to say he can't get back to that point, but I think we're at the point where we've got to start asking questions. And the reason I wanted to start with the idea of do we build around him is this. I don't think you can build around Ssumday.
Not in his current form, no.
I don't think he's a player you can build around.
Like, period? Like,
Period.
what if we see him, upswing on the back half of the split? And he's like, okay, that's the old Ssumday.
I think that at best, Ssumday is a top-tier mid laner and first-team LCS, for sure. I don't think you can build around him. I don't think he's that kind of player. I think at best, he is top-tier, and he is contributing a significant advantage to the team, the core of the team. I don't think he can be the core of the team. I don't think you can build a team around Ssumday. I think he has to be a part of a highly functioning team. And the reason I feel this way is we have now seen two splits. Call it a split and whatever we're getting now, where we have the he is still that player, and it is not translating into anything for us.
He's not that player right now, though. I get that argument for
But he was not
last
that
split,
yeah.
but you could also say he didn't have a jungler to help him snowball. Okay, so if you've got like the raw material of Ssumday, and you're like, look, all we need is this one little tool that will like flip him into this crazy huge monster, and that tool would be a jungler who can come up top and put him ahead, right, even farther. And so now he's like a full item ahead of whoever else, and he just takes over the game, right? That should be possible theoretically. It's not the way he's playing right now, but he played that way last split. It's just this split that he's not playing that way. I'm not saying like that's not a problem. It obviously is a problem right now, and if he doesn't rebound from this, then yeah, I wouldn't build around him anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess the things that I'm wondering are, is he missing the intangibles you need? And the reason I think I'm picking up more on this now is when you look at somebody like Amazing, who is not as I don't know what the specifics are, but clearly he is not as dominant at his position. Like he isn't somebody who.
Okay, so like mechanics wise, he's not that dude anymore.
Yeah, maybe it's not even just mechanics. Maybe it's just whatever. It could be pathing. It could be who knows, game sense, whatever.
Yeah.
But I would look at him and say he is contributing more to this team across the team. And I think a big part of that's mentality. And look, I watched the heist. I'm buying into it. I think he's contributed more in that sense than we've seen anyone else who's been on our roster contribute at any point since this team existed. That's the kind of person that you can actually build a team around.
When you say he's contributed more to anyone else since this team has existed, do you mean like in its current form, or do you mean in the history of 100 Thieves?
I think in the history, like I think there's not a player who we've had on our team who has been as. I'm ready to hear the counter, because if there is one, I haven't thought of it. He's contributed more to the team as a whole, and I'm not just talking about in like advantage. I'm just talking about as the team functions than anybody else we've had. I think of somebody, and I'm not saying he's Bjergsen. I think of somebody like Bjergsen, who they've clearly built multiple teams around. He's somebody who has the mindset and mentality that they want to have on their team, and he's really good, but they've built teams around him. I think Amazing is that kind of player.
Well, he may be a similar kind of player when it comes to mentality and motivation and leadership. First of all, I think it's too early to say that in a 100T context, even though I'm on that hype train right now. If it's too early to definitively say that. But man, to say he's contributed more than any other player in the history of 100T is not a take I can get on board with, because I mean, you're forgetting like MVP Aframu, and you're forgetting Ssumday all of 2018. And I would even say Ryu of 2018. I mean, that's a huge statement to make.
I can see Ryu.
We'll see how it plays out. If he pulls a Schalke on us and he takes us back to relevancy out of nowhere, then okay, you've got an argument. But I don't think that's the case right now. But we need to talk about him a lot, actually, because, look, it is really something to watch how he's reacting to these losses.
Yeah.
Like, they show him, like, face in his hands. He's, like, so visibly mad about the outcome.
Yeah.
And then pair that with how he is on the heist, where I'm sitting there thinking, is he the coach now? After, you know what I mean? Because it's like everybody's just let the boy talk, you know what I mean?
Right.
He's just dispensing this wisdom and
he cares a lot.
Like, here's what our mentality should be, which is great. Okay, cool, awesome. But I had this like weird analogy in my mind. I want you to kind of bear with me.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. So you and I grew up in the same city, and we grew up in a place that had excellent drinking water, right?
The aquifer.
Like just beautiful drinking water, like pristine, literally ranked in like the nation's best drinking water, right? Okay. Yeah. And then you'd travel, right? And you'd go visit, you know, somebody in some other state, and you drink the water and you'd be like, wow, this is the worst water I've ever tasted in my life. I don't think I can drink water when I'm away from home.
Right. Okay? It's coming straight from the creek.
And then after like 2 or 3 days, you're used to it, right? And the water's like, whatever. The water's just water.
Yeah.
Then you travel back home to our beautiful homeland, where the water is, you know, crystal sparkling, coming from whatever non-existent mountains are in the Midwest. And it's like, wow, this water is amazing. I can't believe I was dealing with that crappy water. You know what I mean? And I feel like our guys, everybody but Amazing, is like in that, drinking that terrible water, and they got used to it, and they don't know what the terrible water is. And then Amazing flies in, goes straight from customs right to drink the water, and he's like, wow, this water is awful. How do you guys drink this? All right. Now I know that's kind of a weird analogy, but like that's literally what it feels like to me, where he's sitting there like, how can you guys stand this? We're playing terrible. He's like visibly distraught. And it's because he does not get this feeling, and the other guys have kind of just succumbed to it.
Well, I could ask the same thing about Bang, right? Like, he started 0-2.
Bang was here last split when we were in 10th place.
He was here when we were coming fresh from Worlds.
And he had a great attitude at first. You know what I mean? He got used to that water real quick, man.
Yeah, look, I will share with you, my concern about Amazing is that he just kind of accepts this fate. It's like, well, I have a pretty short contract, and I truly am not looking forward to this, but I guess I'll see it out. I kind of feel like that's where other players are at. And maybe the reason I feel like Amazing is doing so much is because, you know, we're at the lowest point in the org's history, and he's coming in and he cares, and he is making us play better than we have in a split. And that's
debatable. We got wins last split. We don't have any wins yet.
We got no wins after week. What?
We beat Clutch.
We beat Clutch. But I'm saying, what I'm getting at is, remember, we talked about how people are talking about how this is a better looking team. Yeah. We're trying things. And I think if Ssumday, and I would argue Bang, I think those are the two guys now. If they were playing like they played at the start of last split, maybe it would be different. But they're not.
Yeah, that's fair. I would agree with that.
So you could, and this is where I'm getting at. Soligo's playing amazing right now. I'm not going to short sell him. He's the best performing person on our team. Who's playing better than him?
No, I'm not saying that. So look. You said Soligo's playing amazing right now. Do you mean relatively or objectively?
I think he looks like a very acceptable mid laner.
Okay, but that is not amazing. That's my point. He is playing acceptable, and he is meeting expectations of him, which is, hey, let's get a guy in there who's going to bend and not break, and we're going to hope he gets better, which he is. He's getting better.
I think he's playing above expectations. I do.
Well, but if the expectations are low, does that mean he's an amazing player objectively? I'm just saying that. I don't have any axe to grind against this guy. Like, I am glad he's in there right now because he appears to be getting better. But like,
I think given the circumstances, I think he is playing amazing.
Okay, yes, yeah,
I'll
agree with that, given the circumstance. But again, that automatically, definitionally makes it relative.
Like, yeah, relatively.
He's not Bjergsen, right? Bjergsen is an amazing mid laner. He's not that. Now, he is doing what he has been asked to do, and he's doing that admirably. One of the things we talked about, right, was the CS, where he's been keeping even. During the TL game, he kind of kept Jensen in check. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but it felt like both of those guys were just not really factors in the rest of the game for the first while. That's because it felt like Soligo had stalled him out, right? Now, the counter, which is what I want to bring up, is that if you're just sitting there in mid all day, you're not making plays elsewhere on the map. And so while it is good to be doing what you're doing, a truly great player will do that and find time to roam. Faker will destroy, push the wave, and then go roam.
Yeah,
right?
He's not.
That's what you eventually want. And he's got to be on the way up, right? He's got very little experience. He's young. We assume that he's on the way up, and it seems like a pretty safe assumption right now. Okay,
yeah.
He may get there, but
he did make plays.
Right, and we saw him actively, like I said, being more aggressive during the second game. I'll give him that, and I think he was very up there on the rankings of aggression on our team even, but we didn't see any success come from that. Right, we didn't see the plays that he tried to make be successful. But in a game where it's like who do you think is a stronger laner, DeMonte or Jensen?
Jensen.
Okay, so in that where he had like an opponent who was upper echelon, he wasn't able to free himself up.
But he also completely stuck with it.
Which is admirable.
Around him.
That's admirable. I just want to see him. I just want to see this qualified as it should.
Yeah, I think what you're looking for is for him to be Ssumday's replacement, like him to play at the same level of dominance as Ssumday, and he's not there yet. But for somebody who's in his position, both tenure in the LCS and current dumpster fire that finds himself within, I think he is doing really, really well. And if we can put pieces around him that are functioning at a higher level, if your jungler goes top and that investment pays off, you will have time to roam, or you will have time to get a visit from your top laner, right? Like, these are all things that the best players in the league, they get. Bjergsen is not playing mid lane on an island week after week.
Sure.
He's calling people to him, and they are contributing to him being one of the top 2 LCS players of all time.
Sure, and that's a fair counter argument. Nobody plays on an island,
right? And Soligo is.
And Ray's Modern Life in chat said, where could he go to bot that's getting whooped and already fed 4 kills early game, which is a very specific example, but you know what I mean? Like, or what about a dragon contest, right? Or what about, there are things he can be doing. He can't go by himself, but at least he can be there because the bot lane's not going to go by themselves. You know what I mean? So if he's not there, nothing's going to happen, right? I'm just saying that he is not a complete product yet. And hopefully he will get there. So
he's not.
But I don't want to be like, look, he's playing amazing, because I don't think he is. But I think he's playing okay for what we need him to do.
I think you get this kid in the right environment, and I think he shines. I do.
Yeah.
Like, I think, well, he's very clearly our best bet. Maybe we can agree on that. He is by far the best bet we have for mid lane. I think unless we're going to import somebody, we stick with Soligo. I think he is our man in the mid for the foreseeable future. We should talk about top lane and bot lane. Yeah. And I think let's specifically talk about top lane, because there is a ready-made solution for that. And I won't say solution. There's a ready-made alternative to that. I don't know how it will work. When do we put FakeGod in?
Well, oh gosh, that's the thing. So I think if we're in our current trajectory, which is we're not able to find wins and we're looking very bad in the early game, I think you got to do it in another week or two. If we keep playing like this, we got to do it in another week or two. And, I've been saying basically since we announced our roster before the season even started, I've been saying I think you can expect to see FakeGod come in at some point. Yeah. And I also said that you would see FakeGod and Ryu come in. Now I'm wondering if it's going to be FakeGod and Prismal, because like I said, Bang is just not doing anything. Now that's a duo lane that you're breaking up, so that's a huge deal, right? It's not like you can just take a mid lane or a solo laner and rotate them in. So that's like a thing. But man, I don't like if Soligo's playing okay. Ryu's looked a little shaky in Academy, to be honest, which is to be expected. I mean, the dude was retired for a while, for all intents and purposes. He's not smurfing, yeah. So I really don't know. Like, I hope FakeGod gets a chance to play because right now, like I said, I don't think Ssumday is pulling his weight, which is, I can't believe I'm saying that, but I think it's true.
Right. And I think I'm at the point right now where I'm thinking about the long term. Can somebody in chat hit me up with like the contract durations on both Ssumday and Bang? If I am management, I am thinking very hard about whether or not these are the two guys I want to be taking up my import spots. At this point, I cannot say they are. I cannot say this is clearly our best use of the two very valuable import slots we have. And I think especially if FakeGod is anywhere close to being able to play in the top lane, even at a level that Soligo is putting in mid. I think if you get that from FakeGod, you're in good shape. You're fine.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe you're not first, second, or third place. Maybe you're not even sixth yet. But I've got to think that we could be an eighth place team, which, like we talked about, that's not so bad at this point. Because I think at this rate, we're going to lose every game this split.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, by the way, Bang and Ssumday are both on contract through the end of 2020. So, that you've got another year and a half of those guys, unless you're able to sell the contract, trade the player, buy out the contract. I mean, it's a commitment that was made to these guys, and now these guys are not working out right now.
Right.
So you have to jolt them back to reality, I think.
And I don't know
because who wants to pick up a player who's playing like that? Ssumday may have some wiggle room on that, but I feel like Bang's not playing to a point where teams are going to be like, oh yeah, I'll take him.
And I assume those guys are getting paid. I assume they're making.
They've got to have the highest salaries,
multiples of what FakeGod would make as your starting top,
of course,
or Soligo. Yeah. And then you got to think about that too. This is a business, and are you going to pay 10x what you're going to pay another guy for? 90% of the performance, 75% of the performance.
This is a huge shame, by the way, because I can't say it enough. I'm so shocked that it's played out this way, because when I heard that we got Bang, I was like, wow, this is a slam dunk. And when I heard that we re-signed Ssumday, it's like, wow, this is a slam dunk. I was like, we're top 10 team in the world. That was my thought. Yeah. Yeah. It felt
we'd already made it to Worlds.
Yeah. It felt like we were going to be something really special, and it has not played out that way. And if you try and say you saw that coming, I still think you're lying.
I don't think anybody saw that coming.
Look, the team environment, I want to talk about that, and then we'll wrap up. So team environment, what do you think is going on right now in terms of team atmosphere? Like the glimpses that we're getting from the heist and maybe some of the comments being made in interviews or whatever, it doesn't, I mean, I wouldn't expect it to be a rosy team environment in the first place, but it kind of doesn't feel good. What's your take on where we are there and what we need to do?
Yeah, I think look, if you're watching the player cams, you know how people are feeling. We've talked about Amazing. Clearly the dude's tore up after 4 losses. Everybody else is riding 11 more than him in a row, and they just kind of seem numb to it. Mm-hmm. Here's something interesting that Amazing said, though. He mentioned Soligo and Afro in the heist and how he's got good relationships with them. He said, our import players, I need to do a little bit more. I don't like to read into things too much, but you and I have spent a lot of time talking about Ssumday and Bang this episode. Mm-hmm. And if what these are called is episodes. And so I put weight on that, right? Amazing is saying, I have not yet connected with those guys. He's not saying anything more than that. He's just saying I haven't yet connected with them. And chalk it up to whatever you want. But that feels to me like it's a significant thing.
Yeah. I also focus in on that comment from Aframu in the heist where, they're talking about the game and he says like, don't play like, like you have to fight. We have to fight. Yeah. Don't run away if it's not a 100% fight. Right. He's clearly making that statement, and it's got to be targeting Bang, right? because it just seems like Bang's always hanging around the back. He's not willing to go because there's no trust there. And we've seen times where Aframu has been trying to make an engage, or it seems like he's calling for an engage and it doesn't happen, or he makes the engage and there's no follow-up, or engages are coming from elsewhere on the team and Bang doesn't follow up. It seems like he's playing scared when it comes to fighting, right? And so I think Aframu seemed to jump on that opportunity to make that point. You know, it was like, oh, wait, it got teed up and he's going to like knock it out of the park, right? So there's something there for sure, in my opinion.
Then fast forward 2 hours and Bang, as I mentioned, walks away from a 4-man shockwave.
Yeah.
Right. But that's not nothing.
Yeah.
Or I guess that probably wasn't right before that. Oh, maybe it was.
Well,
no, it wouldn't have been. It wouldn't have been. It was the last week.
I think the theme, right, is that our import players are not holding up to what you'd expect for an import player to deliver for your team, especially when you're sacrificing the slot to get that, and you're sacrificing the payroll that you're doing to get that. So those things have to change, right? There's no path forward for this team if those things don't change. Like right now, it feels to me that Amazing is literally our only hope left, where it looks like he's kind of taking over as player coach. And it may be a LeBron situation where he's going to get a whole bunch of juice out of these guys, which may work in the short term. But then you have to take some long-term moves to address that when the opportunity presents itself.
Yes, I think that is it. I think he's the only person right now, and coming back to what I said about him being the most valuable contribution, I think he's the only person who can fix the team atmosphere right now. If anybody's going to do it, if anybody's going to will this team to come back together and play like a team, I think he's the one to do it. He's not going to be there will be another jungler out there in our future who plays at a higher level than him.
Sure.
That is a guarantee. But I think right now that's not what we need. We need somebody who cares a lot and who can spur people on to also care and to make plays. And I think that's why you got to build around him right now, to the point that I would say, give this guy the room he needs to build an identity for this team. And maybe it means you bring in other young players, a FakeGod. Maybe your import in bot lane, if that's where you keep it, is one of these unknown guys from a smaller region. We're seeing more of those, and they're really working. If you can scout them well, the potential pays off. Not always, but it has. And I think, especially if you have somebody like Amazing in the Rift, who can kind of call the shots and tell you where to go and build you up. That's what I would say is my hope, is we can use him to rebuild an identity for this team, because I think we've completely lost it.
And I'd say it's not an ideal situation, or it's not an ideal solution, but it's the solution that we have right now. It literally feels to me that is the only thing that could possibly right the ship. And then after that, it's nuke the roster. That is the only thing that you can do. So I think we're all going to have to be huge Amazing fans. I'll say this. I mean, it's going to be frustrating to watch the mechanical play not really work out. We've already seen a healthy dose of that this split. So every time I'm seeing that, I'm kind of reminding myself what we've seen out of him, outside of the game, the things that he said in interviews, the things that he said on the heist. I mean, that tweet that, he tweeted afterward, he's talking about, like, I hate this. Like, we need to fix this. I mean, someone said this. Hold on. Ray, actually, our friend Ray on Twitter, Ray Miller at MillerTime1919 said, "Why is the newest 100 Thieves member the only one taking responsibility?" And that's a thing, right? He's the one that's saying, like, look, it's bad. We need to fix this. I'm going to fix this. And you heard him even in the heist before that game. He's like, look, I take responsibility for that last game. Like he's stepping up in a big way with leadership. So hopefully that can do something for the team, because it seems like it's the only lever we have left.
That is so important, what you just said. We hear everybody talk about shot calling in League of Legends. I so rarely hear people talk about a leader. And that's the difference, I think, with Amazing. He actually feels like a leader. And he has said more and tweeted more and made more comments and commitments to the fan base in 2 weeks than we got all last split. I would even say from Prolly. I mean, Prolly put out a tweet basically at the end of the split saying this is on me, and that's, you know, that could be his style. But this guy is a vocal leader. Somebody like, I think when you talk about LeBron James, and like not the skill pieces, I'm not making that comparison, but he's a player leader. You know, he puts that into the game.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna cross our fingers for that because, like I said,
yeah, I think it's our only hope. I think you're right.
Help us, Obi-Wan Amazing. You're our only hope.
It's true.
Okay, let's end there before we say anything else even stupider than what I just said. Look, chat, it's been rough on the Rift. I'm personally, I'm gonna give another week or two before I'm like, okay, this split is over. But hang in there. Let's believe in our boy Amazing. And let's see if we can get this whole thing. And Soligo, Jordan, advocate for Soligo.
Just
and
like
let's hope.
The curse is gone.
Let's hope that it's true. Let's hope that there are some stepping stones and building blocks that we're seeing and that actually turn into real material improvement with a veteran leader on the squad. So that's what we're going to be hoping for. Until then, we'll just be watching VOD Squad, Rec League, everything else. You guys, we love you. We appreciate you watching and supporting. Blow up our Twitter. We love talking about this stuff, and we will continue to wait and see the progress come. Miss you already.
It'll be there. Take care, everybody.
Miss you already. Love you. Love you. Love you. Bye.